mean, obviously cancer stuff just shows up forever after. You're probably not going to come up with it in the service, even if you got burnt half to death there.
Right. Always delayed.
How do you deal with that?
It's like proving any other fact. You simply have to show that it's as likely as not that was the cause. If you're someone who served in the service and was on a ship in the Pacific for 3 years and then spent the rest of your life working in an office in Seattle, probably you didn't get that much sun exposure somewhere else, and it's probably the exposure in the Pacific. But those are the kinds of things that you'd have to look at.
That just sounds really hard to sort out, especially since if you got burnt to a crisp at the beginning, what you do to your skin after, may make it worse, but it's certainly not going to put you back where you were. There's nothing to recover from that.
That's true. And almost all these VA disability claims are, to some extent, weighing of the facts and persuading the VA that this is as likely as not the cause.
Welcome to the Victory Over VA podcast, a podcast about empowering veterans to overcome denied disability claims. Each week, we deliver critical insights to help you understand the disability process, veterans' benefits, and how to take control of your legal rights. Now here's your host, Attorney Francis Jackson.
Welcome to Victory Over VA. If you're a veteran struggling with the VA's disability system, or just want to make sure you're getting the benefits you've earned, watching this podcast is the right place. Don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss an update that could change your life. I'm Francis Jackson, here with expert veterans disability attorney Alexandra Jackson. We're both from Jackson and MacNichol. We've helped thousands of veterans just like you win the benefits that you deserve. Now, this podcast isn't just for veterans navigating the system. It's also for their families, their friends, and anyone else who wants to support those who've served. So stick around, because we're here to make sure you get the support you need. And today's show is all about skin cancer. Shall we?
So, is that something you can get service connected for?
Absolutely.
That seems like the sort of thing one would run into in ordinary life anyway. Being as the sun is, if you're fortunate enough to not live where I live, more present in day-to-day life. That was a joke on Maine, but I love you, Maine. Thank you anyway.
Well, the thing is, the VA, with some prodding, has figured out that a lot of veterans have been exposed to the sun in ways they never would have been but for their service, whether it was service in Hawaii or on ships in the Pacific or in the Middle East, or otherwise getting them exposed to sun that they wouldn't have gotten in Maine.
I was about to say, if you stuck me in Hawaii, I'm pretty sure I'd burn a lot more. Yeah, God. What are the most common types of skin cancer that VA sees for claims? Do you know?
The most common types are melanoma and basal cell skin cancer.
The least fun ones. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Fun being a very, very incorrect term.
They also see squamous cell, but less commonly.
Do they get treated differently for rating purposes?
Yes, melanoma is usually rated under diagnostic code 7833, and basal cell and squamous cell cancers come under diagnostic code 7818, just because of the way VA classifies things.
Does that have a practical difference for veterans?
Not really.
Fair enough.
The way they rate the skin cancers is essentially, while people are actively suffering and in treatment, if it requires extensive treatment, there'll be a 100% rating, and then once the skin cancer is brought under control, usually by surgery, but I suppose there are others, then you get about another 6-month period. And after that, it's like anything else. They rate cancer on the residuals.
So basically, it's an on and off switch.
Right. If you have active cancer and are in treatment, typically that gets you 100%, and then you get a period about 6 months once things are resolved, and then they look at what the residual conditions are. In the skin cancers, They primarily look at scarring, especially facial scarring, and any direct functional limitations.
So, what can a vet do to show service connection for skin cancer? That doesn't seem like something VA is logging. Today we got XUV rays in the camp.
Yeah, nobody's logging it.
Yeah.
Well,
Is there like toxic exposure stuff that'll do that too? Or is it just sun?
as far as anybody knows, the only toxic exposure that is potentially relevant is Agent Orange exposure, and that may relate to skin cancer. So that's one argument. But mostly it's just showing that you had duties that caused you to be exposed to the sun a lot. You know, whether you were on a ship in the Pacific for years or whether you were one of those folks in special forces that had the beanie instead of a hat with a brim and you got skin cancer on your forehead. I mean,
Oh my God.
you know,
So specific, I never would have thought of that.
it's, you know, it's these are all fact driven. You know, it's all about what particular facts are going to show that your exposure to the sun was beyond the norm.
So it sounds like it doesn't have a specific one-to-one per se. Are there any presumptives for skin cancer? If you had the beanie, do you get one for your forehead?
No.
Disappointing, frankly. Sorry, guys.
Yeah. The other way that you may be eligible for the skin cancers is radiation exposure. We had one just sad case where the fellow was stationed, I forget the name, but it's now called a reservation, but there was a radiation programs
Testing
development
site.
testing site, and he was assigned there for a couple of years. Later developed basal cell carcinoma that took his whole jaw. Had to have it all replaced with titanium, and you know, lost his ability to speak clearly. Just very
that's
very
terrible.
unpleasant. So radiation can do it to you, but you know, the reality is there are very few radiation cases in the kind of in the general scheme.
Didn't have a lot of testing sites, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, cancer stuff just shows up forever after. You're probably not going to come up with it in the service, even if you got burnt half to death there.
Right. Always delayed.
How do you deal with that?
You know, it's like proving any other fact. You simply have to show that it's as likely as not that was the cause. You know, if you're someone who served in the service and was on a ship in the Pacific for 3 years and then spent the rest of your life working in an office in Seattle, you know, probably you didn't get that much sun exposure somewhere else, and it's probably the exposure in the Pacific. But those are the kinds of things that you'd have to look at.
That just sounds really hard to sort out, especially since if you got burnt to a crisp at the beginning, what you do to your skin after, you know, it may make it worse, but it's certainly not going to put you back where you were. There's nothing to recover from that.
That's true. And almost all these VA disability claims are, to some extent, weighing of the facts and persuading the VA that this is as likely as not the cause.
Just got to hit that kind of 50-50-ish mark.
That's it. As one early judge on the court said, the tie goes to the runner.
That goes to the runner. Is there somebody not running in this scenario?
No, that's a baseball simile, but you know, it was
okay. I was thinking marathon. That's how much I know about sports, guys.
Judge Kramer was a big baseball fan.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense. So, what are the common reasons the VA denies skin cancer claims then?
It's almost always on the basis that either you weren't exposed to radiation when you say it's a radiation-based claim, or your sun exposure couldn't have been enough to have caused this problem. You know, it's 99.9% start out that way.
So you got to go back with actually one really bad burn can just do it forever, and
Yeah, you've got to have
medical fact them
You've
to
got to
death.
have medical facts and a good, clear explanation of the medical facts and how they apply to you by a doctor who understands this stuff.
Can skin cancer ever come secondary to another service-connected disability? Like, what if you're on immunosuppressants or something?
I'm not aware of that. Never say never, but I would want to do some serious research first before I said yes to that one.
Just makes me think of when I was taking antibiotics and it said, do not have prolonged exposure to artificial or real sunlight. And I was like, great, I will turn off my lights and live in the dark then.
Well, this medication issue is interesting. We had one poor guy who was on VA prescribed medication for his mental health.
Mm-hmm.
What they determined was that he also had glaucoma, so they gave him medication for that. He couldn't take both. His body wouldn't tolerate the combination of the medications.
And?
So he gave up the glaucoma medications and eventually went blind. And we filed a claim for blindness with the VA, and they denied it. And we persisted on appeal for several years. And I made a couple of trips to New Orleans to present that twice. And we eventually won it and got him several $100,000 in back benefits because we'd been going on so long and blindness is such a severe condition. But, this whole medication interaction thing is a very complex area, and it wouldn't surprise me to find that there is some medication that you might be prescribed by folks at the VA that would cause you to be unusually susceptible to sunlight and skin cancer, but I don't know of that offhand.
Man, how bad do you have to be suffering from mental health issues to pick treatment for that over going blind?
Well, if you're schizophrenic, it's not good.
Fair enough. That's fair enough.
Tough choices, though.
What advice would you give to vets who've been treated for skin cancer in the past but have never filed a claim?
File.
Yeah.
Yep, just file.
Basically, if it comes back, you want it already in place?
Yeah, if it comes back, you want it service-connected, and even right now, you want to look if you're eligible for the residuals. Do you have scars, where melanoma or basal cell had to be removed,
Is the scarring the primary residual, or are there other things that, you mentioned titanium jobs. Pretty extreme. I'm not expecting the rating code contemplates that.
It doesn't, but with things like that, you tend to get an extra scheduler. But the rating code contemplates scarring, and it particularly contemplates facial scarring. There are pretty high ratings for that.
This goes back to my amputation theory. I'm just saying.
Yes. For viewers who haven't heard you expound on that, go ahead.
Basically, it seems like the VA rates everything on how much of this could we chop off? Like, okay, if your nose is half filled with polyps, it's basically if we just half amputated your nose. So it seems, listen, everything we've talked about boils down to how much of this body part could we remove, and you're still fine. That's all I'm saying.
Well, there's a reason for that, because that's pretty much the kind of thinking you've got. But all humor aside, there are potentially functional impacts with this poor guy with the jaw. And VA does recognize that when those occur, they have to be rated, and they rate them by analogy if need be.
All right.
So please,
thank you for joining us.
Please come back and watch our show next week.
Take care.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Victory Over VA podcast. Make sure to visit our website, veteransbenefits.com/podcast, where you can subscribe to the show in iTunes, Spotify, or via RSS, so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or if you'd simply tell a friend about the show, that would help us out too. If you like this show, you might want to check out our free consultation to see how we can help you with your denied claim. Simply go to veteransbenefits.com and fill out the form. You fought for us. Now let us fight for you. And be sure to tune in next week for our next episode.